Welcome everyone to today's online event, Brilliant Branding Breakthroughs B2Bs are using in China. So in this session, you'll get the ins and outs to succeeding with advertising and selling in China, whether you're new to the market or you want to scale up your existing efforts. So just to introduce everyone, contrary to my name tag there, I'm not sure if you can see it, I am not Henrik. My name's Brad Matthews and I'm with AdChina.io. Henrik is actually on vacation this week, but a limitation of the webinar platform we use is that Henrik has to be the host. First up today, you'll hear from our special guest, Samantha Chalmers of 5-Star Plus Retail Design. Samantha has a background in international business, and one of her focus points was diving into emerging markets, putting a strong focus on understanding the needs of Chinese consumers on both a cultural and psychological level. So Samantha helps foreign retailers looking to tap into the Chinese market by connecting them with resources in the digital design and concept space. Secondly, you'll hear from Yannick from the AdChina.io team. He's a serial entrepreneur with a history of marketing and advertising expertise across many different aspects of business, market research, business strategy, sales, marketing, and more. So Yannick will be talking about the B2B side of things around the customer journey and how to reach out, all that good stuff. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A session with all of our speakers, plus our CEO, Jay. Jay has extensive experience building international teams and businesses across Europe and Asia. And so just to briefly explain who we are and what we do at AdChina.io, we help organizations, brands, and businesses get set up to advertise and sell into China. So lots of companies are coming to us now wanting to get into China, given that China is experiencing more positive signals, both in the short and long term, compared with many other markets. So please put your questions into the chat. We don't mind if you get specific and ask things that are precisely related to your business, your situation, your circumstances. So whatever it is, we'll do our best to respond thoughtfully and accurately. So with the housekeeping out of the way, I'd like to introduce Samantha from 5-Star Plus Retail Design. Take it away. Thanks, Samantha.
Okay, hello everyone from Shanghai. And as Brad mentioned, I work with 5-Star Plus Retail Design. I think he already gave a good introduction. We're an international design company. We work with foreign brands and help them to adapt their branding and retail design in the Chinese market. And we also work with Chinese brands to help them adapt their retail design and branding for foreign markets. I am based in Shanghai, and I do our client management in Shanghai, as well as the marketing coordinating. And today I'm going to be talking about how to create experience online, especially for B2B brands, and how this strategy is a bit different than when compared to B2C brands. So I'm going to start by taking us through a market evaluation of the consumer shopping habits and how they've changed in the months after the initial breakout of COVID in China. And then we'll move into creating experience online by looking at different methodologies as well as how to effectively implement this for your brand. And then we'll discuss some of the benefits and finally look at the outlook in the long run. So focusing on the positioning in Chinese market, we have to first understand how the market has shifted over the past 9 months or so. So the main thing that changed was a shift in the consumer spending. This was largely in part due to less physical interaction, stronger health measures put into place to help prevent spread. And there was also quite a difference in the regulations and attitudes between different cities, especially in China. Prime example between Shanghai and Beijing, just the way that the health code is set up, as well as the level of severity and the strictness of how they are still managing to help prevent the further spread of the virus. So this has also had an effect on shopping habits, physical interaction with events, and being able to attend different events, trade shows, and so on. And looking at the consumer trends, shifted a lot more into cost-conscious spending. This is something pretty normal that happens, especially in a crisis, if there's like an economic downturn in any regard. And looking at how things specifically shifted, there was a strong increase in overall mobile ordering and delivery of items, even compared from 2019 to 2020, and also a stronger focus on commodity goods, which again is quite common when there is some kind of crisis or economic downturn. And looking at specific shopping habits for Gen Z specifically, this generation, studies have shown in the past like 5 years, has been the most impulsive shopping wise, but because of everything that has happened in the recent months, this generation has now shifted more towards being a little bit more cost conscious in their spending and less impulsive. But what we have to remember for this generation in particular is this is their first crisis that they've ever experienced as an adult. So it's very natural that this would happen. And then there's also the strong debate between revenge spending versus revenge saving. A lot of theories predicted that once things started to open up again, there would be a strong increase in spending, which we did see that. And on the contrary, due to previous more impulsive shopping, that there also became a stronger trend for revenge saving to help prepare for future crises, such as this. Looking at the consumer needs, it's still pretty similar, especially in regards to having an experience with the brands. Studies show that this increases the overall purchase likelihood for a Chinese consumer by 86%. And even after having everything that happened and moving into the recovery, 85% of consumers still want to have some type of physical interaction, meaning that they get to touch, feel, or have some kind of experience that's different than just shopping online or just going to the store and picking up what they want to buy. And the main reason for this is that having a connection with a brand is very valuable, and it increases the overall purchase likelihood as well if the consumer feels that the brand's core values align with their own. And the best way for consumers to get educated on that is by having some kind of experience. So how can we create online experience? There's 3 different methodologies that I'm going to take you through today that kind of became more apparent, especially in the beginning of the outbreak. So one of these is VIP consultants. And basically how this worked is there would be a WeChat group or a personal chat group that allowed sales representatives to connect with potential clients or customers. And these consultants would utilize their personal network, which gives a more overall personal touch to help increase the likelihood. And it also allowed them to send promotion of different goods and services in daily or even weekly messages. And the main advantages of this is that it provides a very direct selling platform, and the VIP consultant can then also arrange a more personal appointment, which can increase traffic offline, but also maintain traction with potential buyers as well. Another methodology was live streaming or live commerce. So essentially this can happen on multiple different channels from Douyin to Tmall and so forth. And it's mainly through KOL interaction. So the brand can have different events and promotions where the KOLs are talking about the products or a launch of a new service. And during the live stream, the purchases can be made directly on the application or connect to the online store. And they would also have fast promotion. So maybe they would have a sale for the next 10 minutes or the next hour. And so the idea is that if you don't see it live, you're not going to get this special deal. Another thing is being able to host interviews with different industry influencers or executives to help create a buzz about new products or services that the company is launching. And you can also stream Q&A sessions and different panel discussions, all live, also much like a webinar, and online trade shows with live streaming as well, which we'll get into a few examples later. Some of the limitations is that the statistics on the overall return on your investment is not so clear. It can be really hit or miss. If you set a promotion with too large of a discount, you might not be able to make the return that you need. You might choose the wrong KOL for your brand, and it can also be difficult to retain customers afterwards if the goods are discounted too high. One example is the Louis Vuitton earlier this year did live commerce to launch their new spring collection. This was a 1-hour live stream session that featured 2 major KOLs in China's market. They're actually the first luxury brand to do so. And they, through this, had over 250,000 views to their online sales channels, and they gained over 100,000 followers. Another thing that helped is that they actually had sales representatives engaging directly on the live chat to directly answer questions and provide additional support for the viewers who are watching the live streaming session. So again, really increasing the overall interaction. Another type of live streaming that took place was Alibaba hosted a series of different trade shows over the summer, and it was 20 trade shows over the course of 120 days. And they expected to have around 200,000 buyers per day. And the first show that they had featured home and health products, and they were able to attract more than 1 million business buyers and hundreds of sellers over the course of 2 weeks, which really puts them right on track for what they expected their target to be. Another type of example is VR space for brands. So VR space is like an interaction that can take place in a virtual space. It can be a retail space, pop-up store, exhibition stand, or even an event and products space. And customers can come in, interact with different products, watch videos, and learn more about the brand story of the company. And then they can connect to online sales channels or even have a face-to-face interaction via video, live streaming, or even live chat integration. So the application is a bit different between B2C and B2B, but focusing on B2B specifically, the VR space can be modeled off of an exhibition stand, or it can be some type of showroom to display new products, as well as an example of like a factory or warehouse space to be able to show your buyers what you want them to see and advertise to them. This is an example of a VR space that we did for a Swiss brand earlier this year. Essentially, the customer enters the space with a QR code, and then they can virtually walk through the space, interact with the products and different promotional videos, and learn more about the different brand elements that tell about the story. And then they can then connect to the online store to purchase products that they've seen in the virtual space, or even the WeChat mini programs. This is another example. This is more industrial focused. So this is an interactive Spanish pavilion. It's essentially the same, but it incorporates a little bit more functionalities for webinar. So the different brands in the pavilion could invite specific clients to come explore their virtual pavilion, and then afterwards host meetings or connect to meetings through the platform itself. So looking at the a benefit of having this type of content, even as a B2B brand, is that 70% of B2B buyers actually prefer to watch video content when they're learning about a brand. Live streaming is also a great way to create some direct engagement and excitement for the brand. It also allows to have real-time engagement and can increase the overall interaction of online sales channels, while also creating a more personal touch for the person that's advocating for the brand, or allowing them to see more of your executive team via interviews and Q&A sessions. And 95% of people who end up watching a live stream never actually intended on watching the live stream. So if you think about the purchase conversion after that, that would mean a majority of the people actually didn't really plan on purchasing any products from your brand online prior to watching that live stream. And looking at VR space for brands, it provides a more interactive virtual space and creates a different type of engagement than what's we've already seen through the past few months with extensive webinars and so on. And looking at the overall return on the investment, a VIP consultant is a really low-cost implementation, usually someone from your sales team, and it's a more personalized approach to building connections with your potential buyers or clients, and just making sure that they have that round-the-clock service. Live commerce, really, it depends on the brand itself and what your target is for what you're trying to accomplish. It can be successful, but it has to be really thoughtfully planned out on the message that you want to send, the promotion that you want to have, and there is not necessarily always a guarantee. And then VR for retail, it's a more sustainable way for hosting events. And it's very cost effective because the event space can actually be redesigned time and time again at a much lower cost than actually building a physical exhibition stand or even hosting an event offline. And it helps to drive a higher consumer engagement overall. And looking at the outlook in the long run, are any of these types of digital marketing methods going to stick around post the recovery? I think that for VR space, as well as live streaming and the other methods that we've seen, we will start to move closer into hybrid events and different marketing promotions to overall create stronger omni-channel strategies. 95% of Chinese consumers have interacted with some sort of VR and AI technology in the past month alone. And their willingness to adapt to this is steadily increasing and will most likely continue to increase in the next 5 years. And the overall long-term tracking of these different marketing methods will make it more apparent which one is more successful over the other. But so far, we can see wins in all 3 different kinds of marketing methods. And that is all I have for you. So thank you.
There, especially the VR stuff. As we've emphasized in past webinars, branding is so critical in China because the depth and the sense of branding is so much stronger. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of like the luxury brands in the West, but in China, that sense of branding is in almost everything. Just a reminder to everyone to put your comments and questions into the chat, and I'll go ahead and prepare those for our Q&A at the end. Next up, I'd like to welcome Yannick to delve into the B2B side of things. So Yannick, feel free to go ahead and get started.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, my name is Yannick. I'm from the China.io team, and I'm here now to talk about how you can advertise in China, and especially for the B2B space. and what is really required in terms of that. But first, we just wanted to talk a little bit about why you likely would go into China, so we all know the size of it and that it has been ranked the most attractive market for 6 years in a row now. So that is some of the reasons why you as a B2B brand should look into the market. And especially on the digital side of it, we know that China is extremely digital nowadays. People are using the mobile phones for everything. So on terms of it, you see that there's 1 billion active users every day on the Tencent system, where it's 1.1 billion that is actively using WeChat every month, which is the majority of the Chinese population. And there is 3.3 billion search requests every day on Baidu, which is the largest search engine in China. These are, in our opinion, the compelling reasons for why you should really look into the digital space when you're trying to build your brand in China in the B2B space. But of course, there is some issues when we're talking about things in China. As you have all noticed, a lot of things are no longer available in China. So all your Facebook, your Google advertisement, your global LinkedIn accounts are all not really accessing the Chinese internet, and that is due to the Great Chinese Firewall that is put up. That means that it is an isolated internet, and due to that, there's really been siloed channels with Tencent, Alibaba, and ByteDance, and Baidu that is really fiercely competing against each other, trying to get everyone's attention, and that really means that there is a lack of transparency sometimes in the Chinese space, as things are happening in between the partners, and when people are moving from one silo to the other silo, there is no longer the same tracking opportunities that there's commonly here in the West, where everyone plays nicely with each other. And of course, then there is issues with everyone seeing that there is a high starting cost and risk involved with going into China, and that is not essentially true. Of course, there is some cost associated with it, but it's really not that high at all. And when you look into understanding the Chinese culture and all these aspects, these are things that we can help you with. And these are part of the learnings that you'll be getting through the digital space. And you can test things out just as you can do in the West. Of course, we will always be there to guide you to make sure you do not make the big blunders. But there is a lot of learning that can be done through smaller testing in the market. When we really look into the B2B space, especially where you can really have touch points with your customer, these are the main areas that you can really do good touch points, which is, of course, your website, through WeChat or social media in China, through the Chinese intranet of LinkedIn, through search engines, through such as Baidu, 360, etc. And then on video sites, it's always a good idea to have promotion videos of your brand, your product, so people can have an idea. And a lot of times it's enough to have Chinese subtitles for the videos, which is a relatively easy thing to do, or even having a voiceover is of course ideal. And additional, a lot of Q&A sites in China, such as Jihu, is a really good place to have content to really drive the awareness and increase the trust to your brand. And then of course there is all the events that you will have specifically with the customer. So this is phone calls, email, these kind of touch points. And then we have the exhibitions, which a lot of people will go to, and this will a lot of time be the first touch point for a lot of B2B aspects where you can try to build the relationship. But it's not, it's mainly important in the first aspect of it. And as we're talking mainly digital today, we are skipping a bit on that. And then lastly, there is trade magazines or news sites where you can put out your PR advertisement. I'll go in detail on some of the other steps, but before that, it's always a good idea to have a good understanding of what the customer journey kind of looks like in China for B2B user. In the first awareness stage, the main thing is that they will see your advertisement, they'll meet you at a conference, they'll see you at an expo, something like that. What they would often do then is that they will go and look for more information about you. It could be that they're going through the video site to see if you have a promotion video, or that you'll find landing pages if you have already set that up in Chinese. And then of course they'll go to your main website to really find information. Therefore, it is essential that you have a website that is accessible in China, but also a place where you can really drive good information about you in Chinese, and even having blog posts or white papers that are all in Chinese to really show your expertise is really essential to when people are moving from the awareness phase into the more consideration phase. That is also where it's a good idea to have more information on Q&A sites with specific topics that is in your industry or your key expertise. And again, that leads into having longer articles on your WeChat account that is again showing off your expertise and how you can really help the customer in the B2B space. And then normally they will go back to the website. Maybe they'll look for a lead gen form. They'll figure out how to really contact you. Then they would normally either have a call with you, send you an email to start out the process, and then you'll have a first proposal from you guys. And then what needs to be said is that in China, it's really important to be flexible, especially in the B2B space. That is one of the main criteria that Chinese companies are looking for in Western companies, that often Western companies do not really understand, is the flexibility to really discuss things. A lot of times we're a bit set in the ways we're doing things, and that can be an issue when you're dealing with Chinese, mainly because they might have started the proposal phase, but they're still looking for more information. So you need to be accommodating to really help them find all the information they really need. And lastly, it's really important that when you do the final negotiating, if it's a really big deal, then really go be face-to-face with them, meet them in China, have the negotiation there face-to-face, be able to understand the culture that is there and build the relationship with them. This is hopefully the start of a long-term relationship with your business partner in China. So it's important to really show that you are interested in going there and meeting them on their terms. And then when you finally had the deal with them, then it's really important to engage with them via your WeChat account. As an example, there you can talk back and forth, but you can push the message from your company, the branding, everything that you would really like them to know, read the articles, have joined webinars together maybe, or even just have webinars on topics that they find interesting in. And again, having blog articles, WeChat articles is really important for them. This is points that they can share if it's interesting to their industry. And in that way, you can gain word of mouth in China and hopefully continue growing your business and really build the loyalty with your customer. So now I'll delve in a little bit into each step of these aspects of it and see what is really important in these aspects. So here's a really quick checklist of things that you really should have in place before you do B2B sales in China. You should really have a Chinese website that is accessible in China. So hosting it in China would be ideal, or hosting it at least in nearby countries, so there is not going to be any delay when people are opening up your website. Making sure that you have social media presence in China. It's really important because we know that most of the B2B customers in China have between 7 to 11 touch points with any customer or any purchasing before that happens. So you should be present there, make sure that they can find information about you. And it goes the same way when the Q&A side really help build up the trust, but also again, finding another touch point with them. It's all about the frequency. How often are they gonna be in touch with your brand to really help them build the awareness of you? Again, in search engine marketing, that is where we see the best leads coming from in the B2B space, is people searching for specific solutions. So it's really important that you do your SEO and CM. And of course, running display advertisements, PR stories is really to get the word out about you. But it's important that you have the other aspects in line and checked out before you start attracting more traffic to your site or to your brand. For the Chinese website, the main idea is really to gain trust and really show that you have good knowledge on whatever it is that you're doing. So a good starting point is really to start out with good landing pages in Chinese. Then you can scale that up afterwards when you see there's traffic into doing your whole website in Chinese, or start to build out more informational website focusing on the key products that you're trying to deliver to the Chinese market. And the really important thing is that make it easy to navigate. Make sure that you have high quality content. That is really where we as Western brands often stand out, is that we structure the websites really well. So please use all the knowledge you have from the West and how you're structuring your website to make it really accessible and easy to find the information that you need as a customer or consumer. And again, when we move on to the social media, it is really gaining trust, but also key that you can really reach out and communicating with the customers. So there is two main channels, which is WeChat and Weibo, where Weibo is a little bit more open, but WeChat is a bit more sticky. So if you connect with people there, you have a much higher chance of really keep the communication going with your customers there. We normally recommend to use both, but you should really have a different plan for each of them. One is more to create awareness, and the other one should be more in depth, specifically for your industry, where WeChat is the one that should be in depth. And this is the point where you can then be able to reach out to the customers, try and figure out information that they're really looking for. And also afterwards, keep in touch with them and make sure that they are engaged with your brand. And hopefully they can help share your brand's information to anyone they know in the industry and gain you the word of mouth. Moving on to the Q&A advertisement, it's really important. We see a lot in China that people are going to Q&A sites to find more information specific on certain topics. So what we normally recommend is that you find out what are the key touch points or the key information that your customer really needs to know about your brand, and then find a strategy where it's creating good content to answer these kind of questions. And then you go into the Q&A sites, the forums, trying to find people asking for these questions, and then you reply in a structured and very informative way without trying to sell your brand here, but it's really just trying to give as much information as possible. And then by doing that, they really see that you have the expertise on this area, and then you're slowly building trust. And again, it's going to be one more touch point. People will search for these questions. They'll often in Baidu search, then they will come up first, these parts, because it's part of Baidu, so they have a bit higher ranking in the CEO, and there you can really get a good, easy ranking in a sense, and really making sure that people are finding your brand as the first thing they're really looking for, and that you have given information about how you can help solve this issue or this pain point your customer might have. That leads into why it's really important to really do search engine marketing, really do the SEO, make sure that you have a high organic search count. So that is, of course, by having the Chinese website, making sure that it loads quick really increases your ranking. But at the same time, it's important to start advertising into the keywords that you find most relevant for your brand. We have seen that most of the high quality leads in the Chinese B2B space comes from search engine. So this is really a point where it's good to do a good marketing effort, really focusing on what you want to do in the B2B space and what are the keywords that you are most involved with, and then really build out your strategy from there in terms of digital advertisement, and then supplement it with all the display advertisement. And these are some of the more normally used channel in China, and these are the channels that we can help you really push out to through our platform that I'll talk a bit about in a little bit. So as you can see, you can see the numbers of users, you see a little bit of description of it. For the B2B space, what we would probably recommend is starting out on something like WeChat and Toutiao News, where it's really important to have good structured information, and it's going to be native advertisements. And then at the same time, making sure that you have video content that is uploaded into Tencent Video, where it's really for people to find the information more than it is us pushing information to them. But it's really, this is just an additional thing to really gain more traction in the market for your brand. One other option is that you can specifically find people by the same way that you do in the West using LinkedIn China. It works the same way as it does outside of China, but it is just our internet. It's only for the Chinese internet, so you'll only see Chinese people on it. So what you need to do is you need to set up a new advertising account if you want to run advertisement that is specifically in the LinkedIn China. And then if you have done that, then you can do the same display advertisement. You can do the same in-mail messaging that you do in the global LinkedIn. And we see it's a really good way to drive traffic if you are looking for very specific areas. So if you're looking for CFOs in a specific type of company, then using LinkedIn China is really an effective way to reach that audience. and that is really a really good way to reach specifically target people. Sorry, drifted a bit. Lastly, getting your news out in news and PR. This is some of the places we have put things out before. It's really important to just make sure that you have even more touch points, right? And of course, we will find the different cases that is for your industry, but it is important to have more information out. It could be similar article that is published in multiple of these newspapers, and we'll be happy to help you do that to really increase more touch points for your customer and increase the awareness and also the trustworthiness of your brand, that you are also in the more traditional news in a sense. That leads a little bit into the Ad China IO platform that we're having that makes it really easy to do advertising in China. So you can now, as a brand, really reach out to the China in an English interface and then run your advertisement in China. So as any marketing strategy is, we work in the same structure that we start out with planning, making clear marketing strategies and planning for your campaigns into the B2B space. When that is in place, then we target the specific target that you want the audience and really try to make it as narrow as possible. And then we'll run multiple tests for different audiences to find out where the best audience is for your specific consumer. And at the same time, you'll always have 100% transparent reporting from our side. You'll be able to see monthly reporting, monthly spend, and we'll have meetings with you guys about the learnings from the campaigns, and you'll be able to track where all the fees to us goes and where all the marketing spend really happens in China. And of course, as always, we will continue to optimize and really evaluate what is happening and give improvements to the campaign, so any current but also future campaigns will be even more successful than the current are. And one of the ways we do this is through our platform at China, where we can reach out to multiple channels in one place. So it's going to be easier for you guys to really cross test on different channels in China. It's so easy to check the different channels, and you'd gain the insights in real time with real data, and you can reach out to the whole population of China. In a sense, we are connected to all the premium channels in China. And the way that it really works is that you are picking a channel and then the key target audience, and then you're creating the advertisement. All the targeting audience is all in English. All the ad creatives is, you can put it in English, and then we come in and help you translate it. And then it's as easy as if you've run any campaigns on Facebook, on LinkedIn, anywhere else. You set a schedule, you set a time, and then you just let it run. And then the main difference is that it takes normally 1 working day for the advertisement to be up and running, because that is the time that it takes for us to review it, and then for the media channel to review and make sure that it's all okay. So as you can see, you pick the channel. We are connected with 10 plus channels currently, with through Tencent, through Baidu, and ByteDance. So that is Douyin, which is the Chinese TikTok, if that is the audience that you're wanting to reach. Selecting the target audience, it's really precise, very granular, where you can reach out to them into the education level they're having, the interest level they're having, where they're accessing the Wi-Fi, the consumption level, etc. And as you can see, this is a screenshot of what reporting you'll get back, and you can see that on a daily, or you can even look at it on an hourly base. Really getting granularly into figuring out, and you can export all the data so you can run more analysis on it. And then you get back the audience reports on where in China they are, what age groups they are, the gender, all the good things that you will be having. And this all happens automatically, so you'll be able to go in and see it in real time. Just quickly on who we are, we have been a company for 5 years, started by Jay, who is also in the call, Wolf Erik Spilling, and Stein Erik Moore. All of them are from big companies such as Huawei, Telenor, the biggest telecom company in Norway, and Accenture, as you have probably all heard of. So what the idea was to take international product and services and really giving it to the Chinese consumers via digital marketing channels and e-commerce. that is why we created the platform, to make it really easy for people in the West to do. And just our team is really diverse. We are, of course, headquartered in Oslo, Norway, but we have teams in Shanghai that is mainly the operations and development team. And then we have the growth team that is spread out in Perth, where Brad is, Bangalore in India, and Islamabad in Pakistan for now, and it's growing. A little bit on our track records of the companies we've helped. It's both in the B2C, but also in the B2B space. In the B2B space, it's stuff like Innovation Norway, which is a big part of the Norwegian government, and Statkraft, which is the biggest power company in Norway, which is having a lot of activities in China. So these are a few examples. I'll skip through here a little bit. We'll send this over so you can read about what we have done specifically for Innovation Norway and what we've done for Statkraft. But yeah, that is it from our side.
There's still time to get your questions in, so go ahead and put those into the chat if you haven't done so already. Now, as we can only have 3 cameras switched on at any one time, I'm happy if you all switch your cameras on, switch mine off, to respond to the questions, and I'll be the disembodied voice pitching those questions to the most suitable person. So Jay and Samantha, yep, cool. My first question is to Samantha. Do you think that the revenge buying phase has ended? I think
Can you hear
might
me
be
now?
muted, Samantha.
Good?
All good.
Okay. I think that the revenge buying phase was a little bit short-lived, but it is likely that we might see the same trend in other markets as they continue to recover.
That's a good point. Awesome. Question for Jay. So what's it like marketing in China with the firewall? They say, I get that advertising happens on different channels, but are there other considerations to be aware of?
I think Yannick was very thorough there already, talking about differences. If I'm going to add anything there, I would say the dynamic of the ecosystem is very different. In the West, you have very fixed, ecosystem. You focus either on the Facebook kingdom or emperor, or empire, or you focus on the Google, or you do both. But in China, the interesting thing, which is also a challenge for advertisers, is that the players comes and goes, and there is always someone new around the block and become very, very influential over the audience. So what is important is that one going to Chinese market, keep testing different channels, keep getting learnings, and keep adjusting their marketing strategy, especially on the advertising side. I think that would be one thing I would emphasize on. So lean operation is quite important.
Good answer. Yeah, because different channels serve different purposes. Looking at questions, Yannick, one for you. How can I determine which ad channels are right for my jewelry business? Do I copy competitors, choose different channels to my competitors, or look at other factors?
It's always a good starting point to just see what your competitors is doing. We're not saying that the competitors is always doing the right thing, but it always gives at least an indication of the market they are spending money in, where it could be a good idea to go. What we would also do is that normally we would help you do that, and we'll do a bit of research into the market, trying to find out where your key audience is. I think that is the main thing. The better you understand your key audience, the easier it is to find the right channel for you. Of course, a lot of people have the idea of where their key audience is outside of China. So if they have that at least, then we can take that and try to build what that would look like in China and what their consumption oasis and the customer journey that's most fitted for that key audience. So the best answer is really to try and adapt what you are having now and find the best possible channels in China that is for your specific key audience. That is what we normally do. And of course, we start looking into what competitors is doing, but we'll go a bit further than that and see if all the channels make sense, what they're doing, and then we'll give you recommendations on that. So the best way to do it is really just book a call with us, and then we'd be happy to have a talk with you about what your key audience is, and then finding the best possible solution for you, because there's not a right channel for everything. It's all going to depend on who you're wanting to reach to.
Right. So there's lots of factors, and even some of it will come down to just testing and seeing what works.
Definitely, that is always the case. Everything should be tested, and then when you have the test results, then it's easy to scale upwards afterwards.
Awesome. Thanks, Yannick. Jay, I recently saw an article talking about Chinese businesses doing lots of their business through social media channels and accounts. It said some companies don't even have a website or an email address, but run everything through social media. Would you recommend this strategy for a small business teaching English to Chinese students?
That can be a start, actually. That can be an easy start. In the presentation of Yannick, he listed a list of what should be in place, or what in general normally should be in place before anyone goes into Chinese market and start advertising themselves. But then that's not applicable for everyone, especially not for SMEs. By introducing the platform of adchina.io, I think we tried really hard to enable the small businesses going into Chinese market, either on the B2B side or on the B2C side. So starting with the social media is probably a low barrier entry point for some business, like what you said. For example, English language teaching, especially if it's a small organization, without too much resources to be, let's say, dedicated to this initiative. Because going into Chinese market has been a big decision for any basically organizations. But then we are trying to make that decision a smaller one, and I think it's possible with so deep penetration of mobile internet and social media in China, and that's possible.
Okay, cool. So it's a low barrier entry point, definitely.
Yes.
One for Samantha. Do you think that the virtual reality stuff is a gimmick or a fad, or likely to be an important aspect of branding? So granted that you don't have a crystal ball, what are your thoughts on VR?
Continue to improve. I think the big challenge is brands being able to realize the potential of how to implement it and what that can mean for their brand. Looking at the Chinese market, and specifically the trend of VR and the effectiveness and the use of being able to put VR or provide a VR experience to consumers, whether it's B2B or B2C, is likely to grow. One thing that's very unique about Chinese consumers is the aspect of gamification and a consumer's willingness to interact with a game-like experience in comparison to some other markets. So VR experience can really play to that willingness to play games, and there's a lot of different ways that it can be applied. So today we looked at like VR showrooms, but for example, really to understand the in-depth components of, let's take an industrial company like an automotive company who specializes in selling specific parts for engine. Having a VR experience would allow their consumers, buyers, to be taken inside of the engine and see where the part would be installed and how it affects the overall performance of the industry, of the machinery itself. So, you're providing a deeper experience and a deeper connection with the brand. So I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, definitely. And the gamification point's a really good one too, because I think as the younger generations start to become more on the consuming side as time goes by,
and
I think
we haven't
that'll
seen too much
become
in the
even
way
bigger
of VR implementation into
as a trend for
retail
sure.
space, but we have seen a number of brands, even cosmetic makeup brands and luxury brands, that are partnering with different video games to create some kind of engagement, whether it's through intellect IP product placement or actual experience that incorporates the product into a game. So I think this is just going to continue to evolve in China's market.
Very interesting. Definitely continue to evolve. I think we have time for one more question. Just looking at the ones that were sent before we started. One for Jay. Do you have any thoughts on when international travel might return? Again, you don't have a crystal ball. And do you have any recommendations for businesses in the tourism space right now, given that things are very quiet? Can anything be done to encourage future travel?
When it comes to international travel, I mean, Samantha is in Shanghai, is in China. The situation in China is pretty under control already. Right now, what is limiting the Chinese tourists to come out or travelers in general is actually the situation of the rest of the world. I have been talking to some, insiders from the industry, pharmaceutical and vaccine industry. Everyone is saying that it's going to come out actually this year, and then hopefully some of the countries will become safer than the others. But in general, because of the situation in China, until they have massive vaccination, it's not going to happen in a massive scale. And I cannot say anything about what a tourist industry should do, but what I can tell you what some of our customers in the tourist and the travel industry are doing at this moment. If you look at the travel industry in China, domestic traveling and the tourism has really, I would say, exploded. I mean, these days. Also because of the limitation for international travels. So we suspect, and everyone does, that there is going to be a big surge in the demand on that one as soon as the situation gets better. So some of our customers have been, so first of all, they have been maintaining their social media by regularly posting their regular content to keep the market warm, to keep them exposed in front of the Chinese travelers. Second is that some of them who haven't actually been doing much, or if anything, in attracting Chinese tourists in the past, because of the a lot of Chinese tourists are going there, and they haven't been really able to serve everyone. So they have actually decided to use this time of quietness to prepare themselves for their activities after the pandemic. So several of our new customers came in just to establish their digital assets in China, and then populate their website with content that they want to be put into Chinese, the language, and also to open up their advertising account just to get prepared for hopefully the explosion of demand after the pandemic. So that is something we have observed. As a reference to the similar players in the industry.
Yeah, well, hopefully it does explode. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay, Samantha, and Yannick for the responses and the presentations today. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm glad you're able to be here, and I hope you found the content and the answers to these questions valuable and useful to you. Hope to see you again next time. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.